Good morning, my fellow YouTube viewers. What I want to do today is I want to present to you the financial analysis that I made on my former employer, Foster Wheeler. This financial analysis is for the year 2013. In order to perform this financial analysis, I used information that was on the public domain. Basically, what I did was I went onto the Foster Wheeler website, went into Investor Relations, and I got the Form 10-K that they submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission because Foster Wheeler was on the New York Stock Exchange. Foster Wheeler has since, in November 2014, been purchased by the company ANAC, and it has changed its name to ANAC Foster Wheeler. It has also made a statement saying that it wished to delist from the New York Stock Exchange. It also made a statement saying that they are going to have a new head office in Houston, Texas. So I would have to find out whether or not they will still be required to submit their documents to the Securities and Exchange Commission, because even if they have delisted from the New York Stock Exchange, and even if they were a private company, which they're not, the Securities Exchange Commission has certain criteria for which they would be required to submit their financial statements to him. So it would be up to the Securities and Exchange Commission to decide that. The thing that I found that was striking in my financial analysis was that in 2012, Foster Wheeler's pension and post-retirement benefits were $43,913,000. In 2013, it changed $103,814,000 to give it a profit of $59,901,000. So I personally did not see anything in the Form 10-K that explained why you had such a large variance in these pensions. But if somebody else who's more knowledgeable about pensions than I am reads the Form 10-K and they find a reason for this really big change, then certainly if they want to email me and give the reason for this really big change, then certainly I will amend my financial analysis and do another YouTube video on my findings, because pensions are not my forte. So I can't tell you. The only thing that I can tell you is that when you are conducting a financial analysis, if you find any really large changes, such as the one right here, then you are supposed to investigate that. I investigated it by reading the Form 10-K. I personally didn't see any reason for it in the Form 10-K, but if somebody else wants to read their Form 10-K and if they want to email me and highlight the reason, certainly I will amend my analysis. But at the moment, Foster Wheeler was earning 39% of its net income from its pension. So that's something that really needs to be investigated, because pensions are generally seen as a liability and are like covered as an overhead to the business. So it's highly unusual for a company to be earning an income on its pensions and other insurance policies that it takes on its staff. So if a company is earning income on insurance policies that it takes out on its staff, then certainly that is something that surely needs to be investigated. And since I'm an outsider, I can't really investigate that. Now in 2012, Foster Wheeler's net comprehensive income was $98,487. In 2013, because they made a windfall on their pension, their net comprehensive income was $1,453,000. The difference being $56,966,000. I conducted a what-if analysis, and if the pensions had remained at the 2012 levels, then Foster Wheeler would have had a comprehensive net income of $54,902,000, which would have been 56% of its 2012 net income, and that surely explains why Foster Wheeler wanted to, make such a good profit off of its pensions, to bring up the income to make the company more profitable so that AMEC would want to buy it. Now, personally, because I'm not an insider, I don't know if AMEC knew about this. I don't know if AMEC took a really good look at Foster Wheeler's financial statements. Probably AMEC knew all about it, and AMEC was quite okay for Foster Wheeler to make a profit on its pensions, just so long as it was making a profit and the shareholders were happy. I'm sure AMEC wasn't that concerned. You can see here that Foster Wheeler's goodwill increased. I don't know how they calculated an increase in the goodwill, but they did. And Foster Wheeler's assets also increased as well. You can see that in the balance sheet in 2012, the pension, post-retirement, and other employee benefits was $177,345,000. In 2013, this reduced to $111,221,000, which means it had a reduction of $66,124,000. Okay, now one thing that we need to ask ourselves is, why was this such a huge reduction in the pensions? I mean, obviously that's something that needs to be looked into. My personal opinion is this pension situation is something that needs to be looked into, because I did not find an adequate explanation in the Form 10K. There's no mention in the Form 10K about why the employee benefits have been reduced by 37%. So somebody who has knowledge of pensions certainly needs to investigate this, and because I don't have very much knowledge of pensions, I'm not the person who can investigate it. I did an analysis on the sales ratios, and then in addition to the analysis of the sales ratios, I did a what-if analysis to find out what the ratios would be if the pension had remained at its 2012 levels. And so you can see that these are the ratios that I came up with. If the color is black, then that means it either stayed the same or it improved. If the color is purple, then that means that it worsened. And then the red is the what-if analysis. What would have happened if the pension had remained at 2012 levels? So you can see that if the pension had remained at 2012 levels, it would have been less or worse than the 2012 values, but it would not have made such a drastic change as it had done. I calculated the retained earnings. The reason why Foster Wheeler had retained earnings is because Foster Wheeler does not typically give dividends to its shareholders. But one thing that was in the Form 10K was that in 2014 they decided that they were going to give the shareholders a one-time dividend of 40 cents on every share. I did a what if analysis of the what would the retained earnings be if the pensions had remained at the 2012 levels. And just doing my calculations, I calculated that if the pensions had remained at 2012 levels, then it would have been, the retained earnings would have been $832,609,000, which would have been uh, well, about $101 million less than what they recorded in 2013. So that was my what if analysis. I analyzed the cash flow statement, and as you can see that as of 1 January 2014, they had $556,190,000 cash, which was 53% of their values as at 1 January 2011. I did a what if analysis to find out what would their cash be if the pensions had remained at 2012 levels, and I found out that their cash would have been $452,376,000, which again would have been significantly less, about $104 million less than what they quoted in their financial statements. I did an analysis of the ratios, and you can see all of the ratios that I analyzed. And in addition to that, I did a what if analysis to determine what would be the effect if the pensions had remained at 2012 levels. And my analysis concluded that if the pension had remained at 2012 levels, then all of the values would have decreased, and so Foster Wheeler would not have wanted that to happen because they were looking to sell the business. So Foster Wheeler wanted to keep their levels as high as possible, which if their pension had remained at 2012 levels, that would not have happened. Foster Wheeler's competitors are Fluor, Jacobs Engineering, KPR Technique, Worley Parsons, and SNC Laden, just to name a few. I did actually look at their financial statements, and their pensions also varied, but not to the large extent that Foster Wheeler's pensions varied, and Foster Wheeler was a much smaller company than these companies. It was also reported in the news that Foster Wheeler's third quarter was very poor. I don't know what AMEC thought about it. I can't imagine they would have been very happy. I'm not sure how they're going to feel about my financial analysis either, but hey, that's something they should have investigated before they bought the company. I did an analysis of the stock price, and we're running out of time. I have very little time left, so what you can do is you can stop the video and read it. Since I am running out of time, I only have 15 minutes for this analysis. So I'll stop it, and you can do a screenshot and read my analysis of their stock. And as I conclude this presentation, I will say that Foster Wheeler is just one big short. I don't personally think that it was going anywhere, and I'm sure that that's what the stockholders thought, and that's why they sold the company. And I'll give you a little picture of my perception of Foster Wheeler. It looks gorgeous on the outside, but underneath is something completely different. So I hope you have a nice weekend, and I hope you've enjoyed my analysis. My 15 minutes is up, so goodbye.